Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, it's become very evident why this hearing is here and why the craziness of this hearing, especially not having Mr. Schiff here. But please put back up the last slide. I have no idea what number it is. Not as good a counsel as Harper. 53.
Yep.
Did we cut it off after they got through?
It was 11 seconds. 11 seconds.
Okay, well, while we're doing this, I mean, I think it's just the most amazing statement came out there. We're proofing the tweet that said that he thought that the Democrats were concerned about impeachment. There's nothing the Democrats have not been concerned about for 2.5 years. Since November 2016. The president's saying nothing new in that tweet. There's now back up. He's known that they have been after impeachment. That's why Mr. Goldman is here. That's why Mr. Burke is here. That's why we're going through this charade of staff having to answer staff questions. And basically, when we don't like how it's going, we start asking staff on staff and getting into a staff argument. Where's Adam? Where's Adam? It's his report, his name. Mr. Goldman, you're a great attorney, but you're not Adam Schiff, and you don't wear a pen.
That's true.
We got a problem here. And the problem is developing this. You said you were an attorney. You're a very good prosecutor. I believe it. I've read your bio. You're a good attorney. You understand what quid pro quo is, correct?
I do.
You understand what asking for something in exchange for something actually means, correct?
I do.
You know about the conversation of Mr. Biden when he asked and he said, I'm not going to give you the $1 billion. You know about that conversation, correct? You want me to read it to you, or do you know it?
One second. Are you talking about in 2015?
No, I'm talking about the one from the national, where you did I'll read it to you since you're having trouble. As I remember going over to the Ukraine, convincing our team, our leaders, convincing them that we should provide for loan guarantees. I went over, I guess the 12th or 13th time to Kiev. I was supposed to announce that there was a $1 billion loan guarantee. And I got a commitment from Poroshenko and they said that they would take action against the state prosecutor. They didn't. So they said they were walking out to the press conference. I said, nah, I'm not going to, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have authority. You have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. Laughter. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm getting ready to be leaving here. And I think about 6 hours. I looked at them and said, I'm leaving here in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch, he got fired. Did he ask for something, request something, and hold something of value?
He did. George Kent testified that was...
I think I'll do what you did. George Kent testified this. I'm asking about not George Kent. I'm asking about this question.
Right, but it's important context.
It's not. Answer this question. Did he or did he not? Either Joe Biden's a liar, telling a story to make people impressed, or he actually did this. Which is it?
He did it pursuant to U.S. official policy.
So he did it in withholding actual dollars, actual thing, holding this out there. So Joe Biden, of everybody that we discussed about, is the only one that's done a quid pro quo. He's the only one that's used taxpayer dollars to actually threaten a foreign government. And yet we're sitting here pretending that this is not happening. We're sitting here pretending that a president of the United States now would not be concerned. Look, you look at it this way. Joe Biden's a terrible candidate. He can destroy himself on the campaign trail, but he can't get by this. And it doesn't matter who brings it up. It doesn't matter who does it, because this is what happened. And you can whitewash it all you want. You can go over whatever you want, but that's what he did. He's either a liar or he did it, and he did it. I want to continue on. Question is a question that you had earlier. You rely on approximately how many times do you rely on Gordon Sondland's testimony in your report?
Oh, it's nearly a 300-page report.
Would you be amazed if it was 600 times or better? You wouldn't have any idea or not?
I have no idea.
Okay? You did. It's over 600 times. Would you also understand, if you do a simple check of your report, that over 158 times Mr. Sondland said, instead of not knowing something, to the best of my knowledge, or I don't know? Would that surprise you?
Are you talking about the report or his deposition?
The deposition and the closed-door testimony.
Yes, and over time he remembered a lot more as he was refreshed by other people's testimony.
It is. The question we're having here, though, is Mr. Sondland also said, and many times he said he presumed what actually happened. Let's go back to something else. We're going to continue this in just a moment. According to your report, HIPSI, and we'll classify that and we'll determine that to be the Intelligence Committee and the other investigation with the other two committees. We okay with that?
Certainly.
Okay. Issued dozens of subpoenas, is that right?
I'm not, certainly over a dozen, yes.
Some of the subpoenas were not publicly reported until the HPSI issued its majority report, correct?
Most of the subpoenas were
Answer
not
the question. As
publicly-
Mr. Burke had so much free reign, let's go at it. Either answer the question or elaborate, one or the other.
Sir, I'm trying to answer the question.
Did you or didn't you? Did it come out or not?
Did what come out?
I'll read it again. Some of the subpoenas were not publicly reported until the HPSI issued its majority report, correct?
Yes, they were given to the minority, but not the public, yes.
Putting aside the witnesses who have publicly been identified, did you issue any other subpoenas for testimony other than the ones publicly identified?
I'm not sure. I don't think
Okay,
so.
thank you.
But I'm not sure.
How many subpoenas were issued for records?
Well, we issued a number of subpoenas for records. We did issue 6 subpoenas to executive branch agencies, and they all defied our subpoenas.
In this, moving on to other issues here, the Wall Street Journal reported that the committee issued at least 4 subpoenas to Verizon and AT&T for call records. Is that correct? Are we wondering?
Yes, we are, because there are multiple numbers. We only issued subpoenas for call records for people who were involved in the investigation and who had already been subpoenaed by the committee for documents and testimony of their own.
Absolutely wonderful stuff, but answer my question. 4?
Well, I am trying to answer your question.
Was it at least 4?
Yes.
Thank you. Could have saved us a lot of time there. How many subpoenas were issued to AT&T?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Can you check your records? This is important because we just found out about this over the weekend. We got a massive document dump over the weekend preparing for this hearing in which the chairman admitted and the staff admitted they're not going to be able to read it all anyway. So for all of you writing reports about this, all that massive document dump, we're just simply going on a Schiff report, which Schiff refuses to come testify about, but sends his staff. So this is important stuff. We just found out about this. So how many subpoenas were issued to AT&T?
I don't know. If you'd like me to find
That's
out during
fine.
the
If you
break,
don't know,
I'd be happy to.
then again, maybe your chairman could be here to actually answer this. Was it targeted at a single telephone number or numbers?
We subpoenaed for call records, multiple numbers.
How many?
I don't know. None of, this is
Okay,
very important,
let's just
though.
stop here.
None of members of Congress, none of staff of Congress.
Oh, we're getting to that.
None of journalists.
We're getting to that.
We only did it to the subjects who were involved in the investigation, which is a very routine and standard investigative practice, sir.
And you're not going to hear anything from me about a subpoena and the legality of a subpoena. My problem is this. Who on the committee asked that those numbers that you actually did put into for a subpoena and get those numbers back? Who was it that asked that they be cross-checked for members of the media and members of the Congress? Who ordered that?
I don't think that's how we did it, sir.
No, whoa. You came out with a report that actually showed these people, such as Mr. Chairman Nunez and others, were actually on these calls.
Yes.
Now, someone, and you and I, we're not going to play cute here. Somebody took the 4 records that you asked for, at least 4, took those numbers, and then said, hey, let's play match game. Who ordered the match game for members of Congress and the press? Was it you?
I don't think anyone did, sir.
Then how did you get, okay, come on, that's the most ridiculous item I've ever heard. You don't just all of a sudden pick up numbers in which you have to match those numbers to actually show where they are, and you don't come up with them. Who ordered them to actually match for members of Congress and the press?
That's actually what you just described is exactly how it happens.
Who ordered to find out if Nunez's number was on those calls?
If I could just explain, sir. You pick an event of significance in the investigation, and you look for sequencing and patterns surrounding that event. You look then at the numbers, and you try to identify what those numbers are, and then you start to build the circumstantial case.
At this point, that's a wonderful explanation, but not an answer to my question. Those are you looking for the 4 numbers you asked for and to see how they're connected. I understand the subpoena that you issued. My question directly, was it you or was it Chairman Schiff that said, while we're doing this, let's see if this matches Chairman Nunez's number. Let's see if this matches a member of the press's number. Somebody along the way just didn't all of a sudden have an epiphany, unless you're getting ready to throw a low-level staffer under the bus, that these numbers might match. So who did it? Was it Chairman Schiff or was it you? Be careful, you're under oath.
I know I'm under oath, sir.
Then answer the question.
Matter. And I will answer the question, if you give me a second here. It's not a simple
The
answer.
same second that was not afforded to my witness, by the way.
Well, I think he was allowed
Who decided to leak it, by the way? If you're not going to tell me the other story, while you're thinking about how you're going to answer that question, who decided to leak it? the information? Why did you include it in the report?
That's not a leak, sir.
Why did you include it in the report? After not saying anything else about this, not publicly known. So 2 questions are hanging out that everybody's looking for an answer for, including me. Who ordered it? Was it you or was it Chairman Schiff? And then why was it decided, except for nothing but smear purposes, to be included in the Schiff report?
Well, I'm not going to get into the deliberations of our investigation with you, and I will tell you the reason it was included in the report is because the calls were surrounding important evidence to our investigation. And I think that your question is frankly not better directed not at me, but at the people who were having conversations.
Oh, no, we're not going to play that game. No, we're not going to play that game. You're as good as Mr. Burke. You're not going to play that game. You're not answering the question. And every member of the media, everybody here, when you start going into the decorum of this House, when you start looking at members' telephone numbers, you start looking at reporters' telephone numbers, which they ought to be scared about, you took a subpoena for 4. And then you decided to play match game. You found numbers that you thought were like, some of them actually didn't exist because they claimed that they were for the White House Budget Office, and they were not. So we're throwing stories out there because nobody was out there acting. So I go back to my question. Are you going to go on record in front of everybody here today and say that you will not tell who ordered this, you or Mr. Goldman? Mr. Goldman, you or Mr. Schiff?
I am going to go on record and tell you that I'm not going to reveal how we conducted this investigation.
And that's the problem we have with this entire thing. Mr. Schiff said behind closed doors.
I can tell you what the importance is.
I'm done with you for right now. We're done. You're not answering the question. You're not being honest about this answer because you know who it is. You're just not answering. Mr. Castor.
I have some information on the subpoenas.
Let's go.
We did receive copies of the subpoenas, and we tracked this. There were 6, as I understand it. And let me just say at the outset, our members have concerns about this exercise for 3 reasons. The subpoenas yielded information about members of Congress. Whether they're subpoenaed the members' phone records or not, it's a concern when the information yields member of Congress's phone records, and then the information is publicized. Second is with journalists. It's just generally a very tricky area to start investigating journalists' call records. And the third is with regard to Mr. Giuliani, who was serving as the president's personal attorney. But there's 6 subpoenas, as we understand it. The first went to AT&T for the Giuliani numbers. The second was in regard to Igor Fruman, to a company, CSC Holdings. The third related to Mr. Sondland. That was off to Verizon. The fourth was back to AT&T, seeking information on a certain number. The fifth was back to AT&T, and the sixth was seeking subscriber information, which impacted the veteran journalist John Solomon. And also involved with these are some, some of the attorneys involved, such
Mr.
as
Castor, can I ask you a question?
Ms. Tunsing and Geneva.
Mr. Castor, you've been a veteran of the Hill investigators for 15 years, and this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this. You never have either. Would it be interesting to note, because Mr. Goldman chooses not to answer because he doesn't want to incriminate, I believe, either himself or the chairman or somebody else. Would it be interesting to you to find, as you've dealt with committee staff for a long time, somebody to just have an epiphany just to do those match records on their own, or were they under direction by somebody to do that?
Well, it's obviously they were trying to figure something out.
That's it. All right, one last, well, I'm getting ready to try, wait, I have one thing for Mr. Goldman. Mr. Goldman, we're used to committees and people and witnesses taking gratuitous shots at people they don't like. And earlier today, in your testimony, you made a comment that really goes with an interesting thing, and I'll even go back to the chairman questioning motive. When your testimony, you said, as you were discussing Mr. Sondland, you made a very snide comment, your facial expression showed that he was $1 million donor to the president. The implication being he either got his job because he bought it, or his implication was he was loyal to the president and say anything about it. Be very careful about how you throw around dollars in giving, because you and Mr. Burke are real heavy donors to the Democratic Party, and I'm not going to say it questions your motive or your position here today, but we need to make sure that this thing is already blown out of proportion. We're already not answering questions, and you are here without a pen because your chairman will not testify. That says all we need to hear. He don't even stand behind his own report, and he sends you. I hope it works out for you. I'm done. At this point, I turn it over to Ashley.
Could I respond? Are you trying to say that I What are you trying to say? What is the implication here? But by the way, I didn't give anything close to $1 million remotely, so I don't
it's
know.
about
The
30.
implication is we want Schiff in that chair, not you. The implication is the person that wrote the report is the person that should come and present it, and you weren't elected by anybody, and you're here giving this testimony in place of the chairman.
Gentleman does not have-
I hope that clears up the implication.
Gentleman does not have the time, and the gentleman has been warned before. He cannot simply yell out and disrupt the committee. The gentleman, Mr. Collins, has the time.
I think you understand exactly what you did. And I called it out for just the way you did. You thought you were going to get by with it, and you didn't. That's all I'm saying. Ms. Cowan.
Well, I would like to just say one other thing. since
Yeah,
now-
I am done.
Point of order, there's
I am
no
done.
question before the gentleman.
I mean,
Stop.
you're casting
To-
aspersions.
No, as you did,
personally.
Mr. Goldman.
Point of order.
As you did, Mr. Sunderland. Now, according to the chairman's own ruling just a few minutes ago, I'm done asking questions, and I'm not asking you to elaborate, because I'm not asking you any more questions. I've asked all. You won't answer the question on who told the committee to actually check these numbers. You won't say if it's you or if it's Mr. Schiff. You won't answer my questions, so we're done. We're going to Ms. Cowan. You have, as was Mr. Burke said, you'll have plenty of time with helpful majority
I will.
counsel to answer the
Does
question.
the gentleman yield his time to Ms. Cowan?
Yes.
The gentlelady's recognized.